There was a man named Marcus who counted his worth in witnesses. Every action, every achievement, every moment of his life was measured by who saw it, who noticed, who validated, who confirmed that it mattered. He posted his workouts online not for himself, but for the likes, the comments, the proof that he was disciplined. He volunteered at shelters, but made sure people knew. Sadet Potos tagged the organization, because if no one saw his goodness, did it count? He worked late, but always sent emails time-stamped past midnight so his boss would see. He helped friends, but kept mental tallies of who owed him what, because his worth wasn't in the doing, it was in the recognition, the applause, the external proof that he was valuable. And then the world went quiet. A personal crisis, a period of isolation. No audience, no witnesses, no one watching. And Marcus realized something terrifying. When no one was looking, he didn't know who he was or what he was worth. He stopped working out, because without the validation, what was the point? He stopped volunteering because without the acknowledgement, it felt empty. He stopped trying because effort without recognition felt like screaming into a void. Marcus spiraled not because he was alone, but because he'd built his entire sense of worth on invisible currency, on likes and praise and acknowledgement, on the fleeting, unreliable validation of others. And when that currency disappeared, he was bankrupt. One night, unable to sleep, Marcus walked through his neighborhood. Empty streets, no one around, and he saw an old woman in her garden past midnight, watering plants, pulling weeds. No phone out, no one filming, just her and the earth. Marcus stopped and asked why she was gardening in the dark. The old woman looked up and smiled. Because the plants need it, but no one could see it. Marcus protested. No one knew she was doing this. She knew, she said simply. And the plants knew. That was enough. Marcus frowned. But didn't it feel pointless without anyone to see? The old woman set down her watering can and walked to the fence, inviting him closer. She pointed to her garden tomatoes, herbs, flowers, blooming in the darkness. She'd been tending this garden for 30 years, every night, rain or shine, sick or healthy, happy or heartbroken. Some nights people walked by and commented, told her how beautiful it was, but most nights, it was just her. No witnesses, no audience, no validation. She touched the tomato plant gently. This plant didn't care if anyone saw her water. It grew anyway, because the work was real. The care was real. The effort mattered not because someone acknowledged it, but because she did it. Marcus felt something stir, uncomfortable and true. But how could she know it mattered if no one validated it? Because she felt it, she said, in her hands, in her body, in the peace that came from doing something that needed doing. Not for applause or recognition, but because it was true, because it was hers, because her worth was undetermined by who was watching it, was determined by who she was when no one was. The old woman sat on a small bench and patted the space beside her. Marcus sat, she continued. He thought worth was external, something others gave through validation and acknowledgement and praise. But that wasn't worth. That was approval. And approval is the most unreliable currency in the world, because it depends on others, on their moods, their attention, their generosity. And when it's gone, you're left with nothing. She turned to him. True worth is invisible currency. It's what you do when no one's watching. How you treat yourself when you're alone. The standards you keep when there's no audience to impress. The work you do not because it'll be seen, but because it needs doing. That's worth, and it's the only kind that lasts. Marcus looked at the garden and asked how he could start believing that when he spent his whole life measuring himself by external validation. You practiced, she said. You do one thing today that no one will see, that won't get acknowledged, that brings you no recognition. And you do it anyway. You work out for yourself. You help someone anonymously. You create something and don't share it. You show up for yourself when no one's watching. And slowly, you'll realize the validation you were seeking from others was always supposed to come from you. Marcus started small. He went for a run. Didn't post about it. Didn't tell anyone. Just ran. For himself, it felt strange. Empty at first, but then something shifted. He realized he enjoyed it, not the validation, but the actual running, the movement, the breath, the feeling of his body working. He volunteered at a shelter, but this time didn't take photos or tell anyone. Just sewed up, washed dishes, served food, and left. On the drive home, he felt something he hadn't felt in years: fullness. Not from recognition, but from contribution. From the invisible currency of doing something true. He started creating. Writing not to publish or share, just to create. And he discovered the work was more meaningful when it wasn't for an audience. When it was just his. When the only person he had to satisfy was himself. Slowly, Marcus rebuilt his sense of worth not on likes or praise or external validation, but on invisible currency. The choices he made in private, the standards he kept when no one was watching, the person he was becoming when no one was there to applaud. Years later, Marcus encountered a young man who was exhausted, checking his phone constantly, refreshing, waiting, desperate for validation. Marcus recognized that look, that hunger, that emptiness. When asked what he was waiting for, the young man explained responses to his post. He needed to know if people cared, if what he did mattered. Marcus sat beside him and shared what he wished someone had told him. Your worth isn't in their response. It's in your choice. What you did, why you did it, who you were when no one was watching. That's the only currency that matters, the invisible kind. The kind you pay yourself through showing up, through integrity, through being who you want to be even when no one's there to witness it. The young man looked confused, desperate. But how could he know it mattered if no one acknowledged it? Because you acknowledge it, Marcus said. You become your own witness, your own validator, your own audience, and you realize the people whose validation you're chasing are chasing someone else's. It's an endless cycle, but you can step out by recognizing that worth isn't external. It's internal. It's built in the dark, in the quiet, in the moments no one sees, and it's the only kind that can't be taken away. The truth is this: you've been measuring your worth by who sees you, who validates you, who acknowledges your effort, and you've been bankrupting yourself. Because external validation is unreliable, fleeting, conditional. And when it disappears, you feel worthless. But you're not. You never were. Your worth isn't in the applause, it's in the showing up, in the choices you make when no one's watching, in the person you're in private, in the work you do not for recognition, but because it's true. That's invisible currency. And it's the only kind that matters, the only kind that lasts, the only kind that can't be taken away when the audience leaves. So, stop waiting for witnesses. Stop measuring yourself by likes and comments and external validation. Start building worth in the dark, in the quiet, in the moments that will never be seen. Work out for yourself. Create for yourself. Help others anonymously. Keep promises no one knows you made. Show up with integrity when there's no one there to notice, because that's how you build real worth, not the kind that needs validation.